Captain Sarah Hayes was supposed to be dead. 7 years had passed since her family buried an empty coffin since her name was etched into a marble marker at Arlington. Since her old squadron saluted a vacant chair at every memorial. Operation Nightfall. That's what they called it. But nobody really knew what happened except that she never came back. The Air Force called it killed in action. Body not recovered. Her parents mourned. Her little brother David carried her dog tags. And the aviation world whispered stories about the legend who flew too close to the edge and vanished. But legends, it turns out, sometimes get a second act. It was March 15th, 2025. United Airlines Flight 847 was cruising at 35,000 feet from L.A. to New York, carrying 340 souls plus one ghost nobody recognized. Sarah was sitting quietly in seat 23A, just another face in the crowd. Jeans, black sweater, boots built for business, not for show. She hadn't been a civilian for years, but no one would guess it. The world thought she died behind enemy lines in North Korea. What they didn't know was that Sarah had survived by disappearing, destroying her gear, vanishing into the wild, living off the grid for 7 years as a shadow in places where Americans never set foot. But today, the past was about to catch up with her 35,000 feet above Pennsylvania when Captain Robert Chin, a veteran commercial pilot, suddenly collapsed at the controls, limp and unresponsive. First Officer Maria Santos was good, but she'd never flown a 777 alone. And now the plane drifted off course as the autopilot struggled. In the back, people laughed, dozed, read their books, totally unaware that their fate was hanging by a thread. A call for a doctor, a quick diagnosis. Captain Chin had suffered a massive stroke critical. 2 hours out from New York. No airports nearby. Maria declared an emergency to ATC. Hands shaking, voice steady. That's when the cockpit door opened, and a woman stepped in confident, direct, a presence you don't argue with. She didn't wait for permission. First Officer Santos. "I'm here to help," she said. Her eyes swept the instruments. Her voice calm. Maria demanded ID. The woman just said, "My name is Sarah Hayes. I'm military trained. Right now, that's all that matters. What matters is getting everyone on this plane safely on the ground." Maria hesitated, torn between training and instinct. But Sarah moved fast. She called air traffic control, started calculating glide paths, scanned radar. She talked fuel state, weather fronts, storm cells reading the cockpit like she'd built it. The storm ahead was rough, and time was running out. But Sarah made decisions like she was born for this. She took the jump seat, guided Maria through every procedure, and answered radio calls like a pro. Maria was floored. Who was this woman? Sarah finally gave her answer. Eyes hard, voice soft. "I was with the 412th Test Wing at Edwards. Call sign Ghostwriter." Maria went cold. Every pilot knew the 412th. And Sarah Hayes? She was supposed to be dead. But here she was, working the controls with a steady hand, pulling off maneuvers you can't fake, leading Maria through a textbook emergency descent while reassuring passengers with a calm voice over the intercom. 8 minutes to landing. Medics on standby. Sarah took control for the approach smooth, precise, never missing a beat, making the impossible look routine. They landed safe. Captain Chin was rushed off for surgery, and the feds swarmed the cockpit, demanding answers. Sarah pulled out her ID, USAF, Captain, current, but according to every database. She died in 2018. The Pentagon, the CIA, the Department of Defense all confirmed she'd been declared dead, but her security clearance was still active. Her status? Unexplainable. That night, Sarah finally told the real story, not just to the military brass and the agents crowding around her, but to her family, two brought in for a reunion nobody thought would ever happen. 7 years ago, after her jet went down, she'd had two choices: try to escape and risk exposure, or vanish and keep working. She picked the path of the ghost, running deep cover ops across North Korea, Iran, Syria, gathering intelligence, stopping threats, operating where official agents couldn't go. Every bit of data that had saved lives, every report that had derailed a terror plot or prevented a warsome of that was hers. Her family didn't know whether to scream or cry. Her mother broke down. Her father understood the military logic but not the cost. And her brother David, well, he'd lived his whole life in her shadow, wearing her dog tags, only to find out she'd been alive all along. Sarah explained, "Some things matter more than even family. If my cover broke, people would have died." It was a choice that didn't have a right answer. Investigators spent days poring through files tracking the ghost trail she'd left. The classified records showed a pattern. Right after her supposed death, intelligence started flowing in from places only someone like her could reach. She'd stopped a nuclear arms deal, saved undercover agents, and provided data that changed the course of international conflicts. The aviation community was stunned. The Society of Experimental Test Pilots had an award in her name. The Air Force Test Pilot School had a building named after her. Pilots who reviewed the flight data from 847 said they'd never seen anyone handle a plane like that. Her anticipation, her stick and rudder work, her cool under pressure. Sarah Hayes wasn't just the best. 7 years in the shadows had made her legendary. But coming home wasn't easy. The scars from those years ran deep, jumping at noises, never sitting with her back to the door, forgetting which identity was her own. There were months she didn't even speak English. Years she didn't know if Sarah Hayes was real or just another mask. Her family begged her to retire. The Air Force offered her a new role, training deep cover pilots, bridging the gap between intelligence and aviation, building a new kind of squadron for a new kind of war. On a clear morning in April, 1 month after saving Flight 847, Sarah agreed. No more ghosts, no more fake funerals, just a chance to serve. But this time, with her name on the record and her family by her side. She built a training program that didn't just teach flying, but how to survive in the gray zone, how to live in the shadows, how to come back from the dead and keep going. Years later, passengers from Flight 847 still tell the story of the woman who wasn't supposed to exist, the ghost who appeared when all hope was lost and brought them safely home. Young pilots hear her name and know that sometimes the impossible just means you haven't seen it yet. Captain Sarah Hayes, call sign Ghost Rider, flew her last mission as a ghost the day she walked into that cockpit. But her first as a hero, a kind who chooses to be seen, began when she saved 340 strangers and proved that legends never really die. Sometimes they just come home,